special treat for you today. Of course, it's 420, and if you haven't noticed, a lot of bad things tend to happen around 420. So we have the Branch Davidian raid, which didn't happen on 420, but happened on 419. We have the Columbine Massacre and also the Oklahoma City bombing. And it's Hitler's birthday, but that's coincidental. But I wanted to take a look at the astrology of 420 and really take a kind of dig into it and see why do we have all these issues, especially in the United States with 420. But without further ado, it's time to have a little 420 music. All right, hopefully this will play. Nah, we don't. Man. Anyway, so that was in honor of 420. So that was Jay and Silent Bob. So you gotta like it, man. If you don't like Jay and Silent Bob, unsubscribe from my channel, dude. I don't want you around here anyway. No, I'm just kidding. I love everybody. I love everybody that comes into my channel. So, all right. So this is the chart that we have for today. So this is basically what 420 looks like today, and we've got a couple of things going on here. So when there's always a difficult time of year, the one thing that we always want to take a look at is where the sun is placed in the chart, because that's the one thing that's going around every year. Actually, Mercury and Venus do take 1 year to go around the chart, but they go retrograde. The sun does not go retrograde. The sun and moon do not go retrograde in a chart. So that's why using those two, you're not going to get the exact same prediction as you do with the sun. However, I did notice some similarities in the charts of these three events that we're going to go over. So the first thing that I would like to direct your attention to is the fixed star Mirak. So I did a little investigation on Mirak, and the interesting thing is it's actually a pretty, how do I put it? It's actually a very beneficial star in general, right? So we take a look at this star. If I got this from a constellation of words. So I think the constellation of words is probably one of the best websites on the internet to get information about fixed stars. So if we take a look at what they say, with sun, trouble through opposite sex, disappointment in expectations, but otherwise favorable, okay? So I take a look at this, and this is from Fixed Stars and Constellations by Vivian E. Robertson. And this is a book's about 100 years old, but you know, really the fixed star definitions haven't changed that much. And I think as we get into the 21st century, we're going to be updating these a little bit. So I see this disappointment in expectations. That one line really kind of, I think it nails it, because a lot of the a lot of the events that happened according to this really kind of revolve around people that were bitter, people that had their expectations not met, and they decided to react in a particular way. So this is the United States birth chart, and this is actually critical because one of the things I want to point out is we're going to have, I'm going to show this to you, we're going to kind of have a trifecta of crap that happens on these days. So the first thing that I want you to take note here is between 1992 and roughly 1998, the United States was in its sun dasha. So what happens is whenever a country is in a particular dasha, it activates that planet, and that planet tends to have more particular influence in the chart. So in this case, it's going to be the sun, okay? So moving on here, this is the Waco, Texas raid. So the one thing that I want to draw your attention to, of course, is the sun is probably a half a degree away from Mirak, but if you take a look here, Mercury is debilitated and Venus is also retrograde in its sign of exaltation here in the sign of Pisces. Now, whenever you get a debilitated Mercury and an exalted Venus together in the sign of Pisces, it tends to make people very devotional without the check of logic, because Mercury normally functions as the check for logic, but in this particular case, it's debilitated and it's almost exactly conjunct this retrograde Venus. So Venus isn't even operating in the correct way. And then you also see the ascendant. I also drew this chart from the time that the Branch Davidian raid took place, which was about 6 a.m. in the morning. The ascendant's there and the moon is there. So there's all this stuff going on in the sign of Pisces, and then you also have the sun here conjunct Mirak. So you know, I mean, this is kind of a, how do I put it, kind of like a little bit of a powder keg for something happening, okay? And the other thing I want to show you is it's not just the planetary positions, but take a look at the astrocartography. All of these planets, and since this was going on at the time that the sun was ascending, the ascendants in all of these planets were almost exactly over Waco, Texas. So not only do we have the planets in the right position, but the astrocartography is lining up with it too. Okay. The next thing that I want to show you is the Oklahoma City bombing. So for this, I pulled this chart for about 9:03. So this also happened in the morning on 4:20. And we have Venus, of course, is still in its sign of exaltation. So wherever the sun is, there's going to be, the Venus and Mercury aren't going to be that far away just because of our, it's because of our relative position in the solar system. But you're still going to get roughly the same results. So I think this also plays into the fact of why we see these violence on this events. And you have to add this into with the sun dasha. So Venus is in its sign of exaltation, and the sun is, of course, in its sign of exaltation. Now, Mercury is also in the sign of Aries. So, you know, Mercury, when it's in Aries, it tends to function aggressively. Now, I don't have the person that bombed the Oklahoma City, his chart. I haven't taken a look at his chart, so it'd be interesting to match this up. But once again, taking a look at the astrocartography, here we have the planet Mars putting a ley line almost over the sign of Oklahoma City. And so Mars is the planet of violence. I mean, so whenever you have Mars active, it's going to, at least in its best situation, Mars equals action, right action. In its worst case, it equals violent action, okay? And not all violence is evil, too. I mean, some people are violent in defense of their homeland. So I think this is probably what McVeigh was thinking when it was going through his head. But I mean, Mars was in play here, and this is at the time that the bomb was detonated. So, I mean, we have another two things lining up. And of course, expectations. I mean, McVeigh expected the government to not behave in a particular way, and you will see what happened, you know, and Murak was in play. So next we have the Columbine massacre. So this one happened in '99. So this is it when the U.S. was starting to get out of its sun dasha period. But take a look. We have Mercury in the sign of debilitation. Venus is still in the sign of Taurus here. So Venus doesn't necessarily have as much of an emotional devotional quality. This is a little bit more regarding around materialism and things like that. But take a look, the sun is conjunct a debilitated Saturn. Okay, so when you get the sun and Saturn together in the same place, that is a sign of friction. And then of course Mercury once again is in its sign of debilitation, conjunct an exalted Jupiter. So this is kind of has the vibe of self-righteous action. And so to point you back at the this, by the way, I don't find this funny. This is taking a look at the astrocartography of Columbine, and take a look. Mercury, of course, is casting its line almost over the city of Columbine, Colorado. So, you know, once again, the astrology, all of it matches up here. So my conclusion in all of this is that 420 was such a difficult day for the United States because it was going through its sun dasha, okay? Not just that, but just the conditions that, you know, it being in its sun dasha and the relation of Mercury and Venus to where the sun is placed really can breed with the star Murak, it seems to breed fundamentalistic action. So we may have to take a look at the fixed star Murak and come up with a different explanation. Maybe it's not as good as the agents put to it. So, all right, that's all I had for today. I hope you liked what you see, and of course, smash that like button. Snoochie Boochies, happy 420. And of course, if you want to send me hate mail, the link is below, or leave me a nice comment. Have a great evening. This is the awkward pause while I stop the cast, by the way.